Hi, I'm John Timmerman, and I am Groot.
I'm Rob Schauger, and I love it when a plan comes together.
And I'm Al Kutri, and Burt Reynolds is my stepdad.
And we are the founders of the No Bull Company.
Hey everybody, today's episode is brought to you by Lawn and Order Special Hedgings Unit. Go to their website for all the details, www.noonesabovethelawns.com.
What's up, Buzz Nation? Welcome to I'm a Little Buzz. This is the show where we bring a ridiculous amount of life to business, all while sharing a glass of whatever makes us happy and sharing stories about whatever gets us buzzed. Fellas, what's getting you buzzed right now, Al?
My porch furniture. I just got some new porch furniture. It's wicker, it's nice. Got it from Wayfair. I mean, it's great furniture though.
Yeah.
So whatever's going on with them, I don't want to talk about it. But totally independent from that. I love it. I just love it. I sit out there, I read. I always wanted porch furniture. Now I have it.
Your gutters work?
They do work. Yeah, I got those cleaned out. The company came. Fantastic. We had a big rainstorm, and I was like, well done.
All right.
Well done.
Score. Rob, what are you buzzed about?
Little blackberry seltzer water.
Yep.
Yeah,
Digging it?
digging it.
What's the brand?
Some weird brand. It is not that one that Al is holding.
Not
It's got
Wegmans.
some weird, like, European name, like,
Oh.
I don't know.
Oh,
I bought it.
Getting
LaCroix?
fancy.
No,
Getting fancy.
something else.
LaCroix is the one that LaCroix's the one that like exploded the seltzer water industry, and then all of a sudden they got so weird with the flavors, like the names and stuff, that they stopped paying attention to the actual taste of it.
That was my 5th grade math teacher's name, is Mrs. LaCroix.
Well, if she started it,
Wow.
she's in a good
God
place.
bless her.
Yeah.
What about you, John?
I'm getting buzzed about pickles.
What kind of pickles?
Mostly kosher dill pickles. So I've
Really?
just started putting them on and in everything.
Oh, pickles are the best.
Like, I started out just buying like a small one because I had them at camp or somewhere where somebody had pickles, and I just was like, oh, these are good. I forgot I like pickles. Then I bought them at Wegmans, and now I have a cupboard full of pickles, and I'll put them in tuna fish. I'll put them in sandwiches. I'll put them in
The
salads.
sandwich pickles are the best because they're flat and
Yeah.
they lay flat. But
Yeah. Well, actually, I buy
Unless you get a whole pickle.
the full ones, and then I'll change it up. I've been slicing them lengthwise.
Yeah, yeah.
They fit perfectly in the sandwich. You like crisscross them
You ever walk around with the whole dill pickle right in your mouth?
right in. I mean, they have different sizes.
and he just like smokes like a cigar.
That's right.
Like, oh.
They have 3 different sizes. I've graduated to the medium size. I'm not in the large ones yet.
Oh boy, working his way up.
Yeah, I bought you know how they have the individual pickles at the gas station? Like those to-go pickles?
I always figured
Oh,
you
like
were
in
a
the
to-go
bag?
pickle guy.
It's a pickle in a bag.
Oh,
but it's,
Pickle
like,
in a bag,
it's like one giant pickle
spicy
in a bag.
or garlic.
Whatever, they got
or
all
like-
sorts of different flavors. So I bought it, and then I like got it in the car, and I was like,
Uh-oh.
oh, I don't want this. Like this is not at
How long
all.
has that been sitting?
Like, and I started reading the ingredients on
package.
it, and it was, it had all sorts of shit in it that is not in a pickle.
reason why it will last for a decade.
And it was
Yeah.
in like a formaldehyde type juice, which wasn't pickle juice. It was something else, and I launched it. I took it out of the bag. I didn't like launch the bag in the
Not
road,
bag at all.
but I took it out of the bag, and I was like, "Ooh,"
Nope.
and I launched it right out my window.
It's probably still there intact,
Oh, it's perfect.
and it's like original.
Yeah.
You
It's
could
this-
probably pick it up and eat it, and it would taste exactly the same as if you ate it that day.
Not
No,
even
thanks.
the birds are going to come down after
Although I'm with you on the pickles, except for that one.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyways.
that. Sweet.
Hey, Buzz Nation, are you a Gary Vaynerchuk fan? How about David Meltzer? How about Shay Rowbottom, Constance Schwartz Marini, and more? That's right, Noble 2020 2.0 is coming up April 8th, 2021. Do you want a free ticket? I know how you can get one. Head over to empathywines.com and buy any 12 bottles of delicious Empathy, rosé, white, the red, and use the code NOBLE2020 at checkout, and you will get a free $250 front section seating ticket to watch Gary, to watch Shay, and to watch all the amazing speakers April 8th. Head over to noble2020.com for more info, and we'll see you there. So today's show is about working for a larger, well-funded business versus working for a bootstrapped startup. There's a lot of differences. There's a lot more freedoms you might be able to have with a bigger company.
Or not.
From decisions and moves you want to make or not. Exactly. So depending on that, so we're going to share our stories and our individual experiences there. But first, now is the time when we cheers to life, love, lots of laughter, and the universe, half nod, half smirk, that everyone gives a stranger when you make eye contact at the store. Yeah.
You know, it's this. It's
Oh, the wink might be a little too much.
the wink is too much.
Yeah,
I added the wink because I'm a douchebag.
Yeah, that was like over the
That
hill
was
of
like-
creepy.
Yeah.
Al pulls
So, like-
his mask down, then
No,
winks.
what is it? It's this.
It's just pretty much like, not to be gender specific, but it depends on if it's a girl or a guy.
I don't think it does.
Well, for me,
you.
for me, so like it's up for a guy. Like I'm like,
Oh, like,
up?
hey, bro.
yeah, hey, bro. If it's a girl, I'll just be like
Ma'am?
it's like a up down.
Miss?
Yeah.
Yep. Like
it's
if
a
you
girl-
had your cowboy hat on, you go,
Exactly.
Exactly,
I want to
yeah.
be a gentleman, but I don't have a cowboy hat. So if I went like this, it would just look weird.
For a girl, I do this.
you do that with your do your mask.
Hi,
Hey!
hi.
Ma'am?
Do you like me?
Yeah, the mask.
Yeah.
Ma'am?
There it is. Okay.
Don't touch your mask.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Again.
Again.
Schmanks.
Al and I are drinking a lovely summertime empathy rosé,
Chilled.
chilled. One ice cube in it.
Mm.
Sorry, all you wine connoisseurs who need it actually chilled, but ours is warm, so ice cube.
Do what you gotta do.
By the way, big
real good.
red wine drinker. Never drank anything else. I did if I had to, but immediately went like this. Getting into the rosé a little bit more,
Dude, it's
and I
good
don't mind
cold.
the white. I don't mind the
Is it
white.
good?
It's good cold, man. Like when it's ice cold, it's good.
Yeah.
Like goes right down, super smooth.
Honestly, like before I
Bad
started really
decisions.
trying it, it tasted like feet to me. The rosé.
So are you drinking it by itself, or are you pairing it with food?
Not empathy rosé. Doesn't taste like feet.
No, just in general. No, not empathy. No,
Never
in
empathy.
general. In general, rosé always
Tastes like the
tasted like.
smell of feet.
feet.
Because you've never actually tasted feet.
But you don't put your feet in your mouth.
Just Trip's feet.
Trip does it, so I'm like trying.
Yeah.
I can't quite get it. So yeah, the smell of
Oh,
feet.
it's gross.
But yeah, maybe it's because I was drinking it warm, and I definitely was not pairing it with food.
Yeah.
Might be the problem.
You gotta do that.
Yeah, but right now it's good. Chilled. It is.
Delicious.
It is good. Also, it's been so hot that drinking red wine has actually been a struggle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want to cool it down. And it it's temperature wise, it's probably 70 degree wine I'm drinking on a 100 degree day.
Yeah.
Not
Rob's
good.
not drinking shit because he's on 75 hard.
Right, day 3.
Day 3.
Day 3.
Holding strong?
Dude,
No start overs. Are you gonna be
you're like
honest?
my hero.
If you
That's why I told
if you
everybody.
F up,
Yep.
you're gonna start
That's
over.
why I told everybody. Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Al
Not worth it.
has started his list.
I started the
Heard
list.
that.
Texted me
my
last
phone
night.
is recording, but it's on the phone. Dude, it's
So in the Notes app,
in the Notes app.
Master
boom,
list.
boom, boom, boom. And it encompasses everything. It's not separated out. It's
Yep.
like, do the laundry, and then it goes to like call one of our speakers to make sure that they're
Yep.
still coming to our conference. Like right next to
Awesome,
each
man.
other.
It's magical. I
Cool.
hope.
I love it.
I hope it works.
And
for
let me
you.
tell you, that list is more than 75% completed today.
Isn't that just a good feeling?
That is a great feeling.
On the flip side, though, don't let it control you to
Poking
the
the
point where
bubbles?
like
I'm poking the bubbles.
it's like a game. Nope, didn't do that one. Unpoke.
Don't let it what?
Yeah, like you're gonna have like down days still.
Oh,
so
yeah.
if you like check off 5 things,
Yeah,
you
but
gotta
I
be
mean-
like, okay, starting over tomorrow.
Yeah.
Getting back into it
Yeah.
because
But the list was
It'll
started.
happen.
I love it. Today I love it. We'll see what happens tomorrow. One day at a time.
One day at a time.
check the last episode or I don't know a previous episode. I can't remember
Whatever.
what
a future
number
episode.
this is or a future episode. We talk about Al's list.
Yeah.
But today's episode, we're talking about working for a big, well-funded business, the differences of doing so versus working for or in a bootstrap startup. I've worked for multiple big companies, Home Depot, big, massive global
Yeah.
corporation. I've started startups. I work for a startup in Richmond, Virginia. It actually failed. So I forgot all about that until just now. So before we dive in, let's kind of label who we've worked for to set the stage.
I worked for John Deere. Johnny Deere.
Johnny Deere.
That was the biggest like national brand that I ever worked for.
Yeah. And you've worked for smaller businesses.
I've worked for a ton of different smaller businesses,
Yeah.
all local. I've worked for national brands, but
like
not,
as an employee?
No, more like as a in the brand ambassador event world, where like you're not really working for the brand. You're working for a third party company that represents the brand, but you are the. So I wouldn't say I worked for the brand itself, but John Deere was probably the biggest company I worked for that was direct for them.
Rob?
Yeah.
You don't have to name them like if they're local. Obviously, they're like
No, so I mean,
types of companies.
So when I first entered into the workforce, there was 2 somewhat large companies, but the third one was an international conglomerate. So it was True Green ChemLawn. True Green was owned actually at that time by ServiceMaster. So now you've got this international, behemoth of a company. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we can get into that. I still remember the stories like it was yesterday.
Yeah,
because it sucked that bad.
Yeah.
Does Cutco count? Because I did sell Cutco knives in high school.
I don't think so.
Okay.
We love our Cutco knives.
The best knives. They are the best knives on the market, but that's not the point.
Still selling
And I still work for them.
What about startups?
Well, the startups were actually my own.
Good.
Multiples. So actually, I had a startup while I was working for them. And they didn't like that too much.
Yeah. Same industry?
I was offering
Similar.
a service that they didn't offer.
Okay.
So I'm like, all right, here's an opportunity. Why not make some money?
Cool. So let's start with the big companies,
guys.
right? Because a lot of people, they graduate high school, they graduate college, they get into the workforce, and it's a lot of times for a bigger company. Those are the companies that are hiring.
Yeah. Hunting you down.
Entry level positions because they have the systems put in place and everything like that. So how share some stories of working for a big, the big name John Deere's from a perspective of like an employee. Did you feel like it was a team? Did you feel like the systems were set up well? Like what was good and what was not?
What was good was, obviously the job security, right? Like John Deere wasn't going out of business. It was a company where you saw the opportunity, you could grow in it, you could, you went to work every day. There was hundreds of people that worked there. And, it was, I liked that. I was in college. I was heading to do my math. It was a perfect job, a transition job. Mm-hmm. And, teamwork, it was basically a factory worker. Like pick parts, pack parts, ship parts,
Yep.
So it was nobody was breathing down your neck. I mean, you were walking around that factory doing different things and you had your job. And if you were good at it, nobody said shit. The one part that was a little bit disappointing was that there were so many areas that as a person that, could kind of foresee and as a problem solver that you want to like change certain processes because you're the one on the floor doing it. Mm-hmm. That was a difficult thing. It was a difficult thing to be like, you guys should really change this process because of this. Mm-hmm. And it'd be like, yeah, love your input, but it's not going to change. Like, that's not going to happen. Yeah. We're not changing the process for whatever. They didn't even give you the reason. It was just like, thanks for the input. And my boss was really a nice guy. He was older guy, and every morning you'd walk in, to everybody that walked in, he would go, even if you were a woman, he'd go, "Hey, guy." He was like a southerner that they brought him up from the south to sort of turn this factory around. And every day, "Hey, guy."
Hey, guy.
Hey, and he did the nod. He'd go, "Hey, guy." So he was great. But there was just things you can't change. Like, even if you're on the ground, like, you have to accept the way the job is done.
Especially with a company like that. Like, he couldn't have changed it. His boss probably couldn't have changed it.
Right.
That boss probably couldn't have changed it.
Yeah, it was like, I really saw things from both sides, because I kind of looked at him and I thought, I would not, like, if somebody offered me his job, I wouldn't take it.
Yeah.
Because he's in the middle. He's in the middle of being his hands were truly tied in so many cases because he couldn't make the changes to please his employees.
Right.
And I'm not talking big changes. It was a beautiful company to work for, but like little shit.
Yeah, you would notice something that was inefficient.
Right, like inefficiency
Can't change
on the
it.
floor. He would be like, I understand, I get it. You know, we'll think about it, talk about it, appreciate it. But like, he really couldn't do anything about it.
So at least he heard you out.
Oh, he heard us out, and he was the nicest boss.
Sometimes I think that's the perfect person for that position, right? In my experience, it was Home Depot, so very similar of like big company with global reach and systems set into place.
Yeah.
Where the middle managers definitely were just, you had to be a decent people person to really thrive and just like repetitiveness. And even the store managers were essentially the same thing. Actually, one of my good friends is a store manager. I'm not actually sure if he's getting into real estate, so he might have jumped, but he was at Walmart. Before that, he was Home Depot, like store manager, right? So making good living, gets a percentage on the store's results, but just the same shit over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So you have to have some intestinal fortitude for doing that.
Yeah.
But it's weird because I go back into those same Home Depots and the same people are working there.
Yeah.
So
Crazy, isn't it?
There's that
It is
type of
crazy.
person that just loves the job security.
Yeah. And it is truly that. Like it is, I mean, unfortunately that particular plant closed down, but like it was a beautiful and most of the people at that facility were 30-year retired, like they were in it for life, and I thought to myself, holy
Could you picture
shit.
yourself doing that?
No, I would literally beat myself with one of the parts that I picked.
Yep.
If somebody said like this is what you're going to do for the next 40 years, for me, I would have said no way. Give me that like piston. I'm going to literally kill myself.
Yeah, you're not going to want this
But
piston
other
there.
people, they were so happy. They were so happy, and I was like,
You know what? And
Good for
thank
you.
God for those people, because like without those people that are willing to do those jobs today, like you think about the impact on the American economy or the global economy, really. Like my dad worked for I think almost 40 years. So he worked for this company that made boxes. Well, his job wasn't to do with the boxes. His job was to, like, when you get something and it's got the print on it, like, whatever it says. Like, he literally built the plate
to put
the ink on it to stamp it on there.
Right.
40 years. I'm like, take me out back, dig me a hole, and just freaking shoot me.
Yeah, but
we need people that are like you said,
love
they're,
that.
They're happy to do it. You know why? A lot of it is because it's secure.
very secure.
They think that they've got a retirement package coming from that. They may or may not. And then they think that there's no worries. Like, hey, you know what? I'm going to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm going to drive in. I know exactly what I got to do today. I'll punch out and go home.
Yeah, and the company culture was I think that's probably one of the most important things. Like we had our own softball team. They hosted. They did everything for us in terms of like company culture.
Yeah.
And it was great. I learned a lot about a lot of things there. And everybody knows, like, I am not a good representative for John Deere. Like
Everyone knows.
Everyone knows. Even people that don't know me know that I am not like a John Deere kind of guy.
Kind of, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everybody knows that. But I really
What kind of guy are you?
like
Hire somebody to clean out his gutters kind of guy.
bingo. I'm going to the casino. Right. Like,
Yeah.
but I love that company, man. I freaking love that company. And the one thing I saw about management and the tiers of management was that like my direct boss was this girl who was not that much older than me. And I was like, we just didn't, we always got along, but I didn't have any respect for her.
Yeah.
Not because of any other reason other than the fact like
Too close to your age.
she was
right?
too close to my age, and she didn't give a flying shit. Because she was in that position for the same reason that I was in the position that I was in, because she just worked there for many, many years and moved into that position. But it was the best job, but she didn't care like the boss that I was just referring to.
Yeah, yeah.
His name was Jim, I think. The divide, like if you went into a problem with her, she'd be like, yeah, for sure. Uh-huh. Like, didn't care at all. Not one bit. Like, lunch is coming up, so maybe we can talk about it over lunch or whatever.
Yeah. It's a generational thing too.
It was crazy, man.
So, you have social media that has shown the world what's possible, whether it's really possible for you or not.
Sure.
Right? Your entrepreneurship's the new, quarterback, is for lack of a better term. It's the new cool place to be, right? So, I can go do this. I can go get capital to do this. I can go do this. Look at this person starting their business online. I can sell things online. Like there's just so much opportunity that before social media specifically, maybe it was on the internet, but you'd have to search out.
That was not there.
Can I learn how to do real estate on the internet?
Yeah.
Can I learn how to start an online business? It was much harder. And then before the internet, obviously, it was impossible because there was no internet to research on.
Right.
So, there was books like The E-Myth, I think, that came out before the internet.
Michael Gerber.
Yeah. So that generation, great book, by the way. It's one of the pillar entrepreneur books
Yeah.
that anybody should read before they get into entrepreneurship.
What is it? The E-Myth?
The E-Myth, yeah.
Yep.
One of the first books I read on that. So now there's this, I want to go try this stuff, which, by the way, is fantastic.
Oh.
But the problem is there's less people now that want to go, as Rob said, work and make the, what'd you say? The
plates.
plates.
Oh yeah, the ink plates
So,
for the box.
right. So there's less people that are willing to go do that
Right.
because they're not who'd you say, your grandfather? Or,
My dad did that. Yeah, for
Your
almost
dad.
40 years.
yeah. So he did it for 40 years because he never knew maybe that maybe I could make these myself and go and start my own little business and do this, right? Didn't have that. And the built-in, we got to work for 40 years to get a pension, things like that. So that shift has shaken up that industry, those industries, to the point where now everyone's getting scared that technology is going to get rid of jobs.
Yeah.
And, it's shaking up all this stuff.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it's interesting to me because I think that the concept of so many options, right? You can do anything you want. You can technically do anything you want. It might take a long time, whatever, but we now know as a culture that the options are limitless for you. That mindset didn't exist 20 years ago. I don't even think it existed 15 years ago or 10. And I think it was just coming up okay, anybody can do anything no matter how old you are, no matter what. Within reason, of course. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if... what do you think the impact, and I don't want to get too far off topic, but what do you think the impact of that is on our culture? So let's say with relationships, social media and other humans and other, knowing about all of these other opportunities that are always in your face make it hard for marriages, for relationships, for whatever. Does the same thing apply for good, solid jobs in our current culture where you get offered job A, which is, let's say it's a solid effing job, great pay, great benefit, everything you could possibly imagine. No reason for you not to take it, even in an industry that you really like, offered to you. Are you willing to take it and be oh, this is a great opportunity? Or are you more likely now to be I'm going to keep looking around,
Keeping my options
open.
Yeah.
What do you think?
1,000% what the latter.
The latter.
And I see it.
Our culture is that now.
I get younger people, 20s mostly, some maybe early 30s, that reach out to Good Monster from big agencies, from massive brands in New York City or Boston or Philly or wherever they are, who are I'm sick of this. I want to come work for a small startup. I want to work for a small team. So, you said it doesn't have to do with this topic. I think it has exactly to do with this topic because it's swinging the pendulum now to, I think that shift in culture is making younger people want to work for a more exciting, a more
But is it a good
close-knit-
shift? Is it a good shift? Do we think it's a good shift? Or is it just a shift that is
I don't
happening?
know that it's a good or bad shift. It's an inevitable shift.
Right.
You know, like the pendulum could swing back if this recession or depression, what are we in? We're in a recession, I think, still. But if this gets worse and it goes really bad and for some reason stays extended for like years, like the Great Depression, well, it could shift to where now people are like, I don't want to go work for a startup because
Like, I need security.
I'm not sure if it's going to close down. But I don't, you know, I don't think we're anywhere near that.
No.
Or they'll take a job doing whatever.
Yeah. So
Survival.
right. I think we're still in the place where younger people want to work for younger, more exciting startups until the fact where they have to take whatever work. Like if they're coming out of poverty, out of childhood, and they're trying to climb their way up, they're going to probably take whatever job is there for them to take until they can climb to the next level, So that's where you get people working at Home Depot. That's where you get people who are working at a gas station. You worked at a gas station, right?
You worked at a gas station?
Yeah.
I worked at a pharmacy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I worked at a farm.
Okay.
Not the sea, just a farm.
Yeah.
So I don't know personally that it's a bad shift. I just think it's a shift.
It's an interesting and a very real one.
Actually, you know what? It is a good shift because the innovation is at a scale that it's never been at before, and without free thinkers.
But sometimes you wonder, like if somebody offered me a job tomorrow for, 6 figures, but it was totally corporate,
Would you take it?
would I take it? And I would probably, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I would probably turn it down. I'd probably be like,
in a heartbeat.
no.
Not even for a short period of time?
Well, I don't know. Like, I really don't know. So if I got that offer tomorrow,
Like if it wasn't going to be, if you knew in your mind, like it's not, all right, this is not going to be a career. But you know what? For the next year, whatever, I'm going to make 6 figures and I'm going to, see what happens.
that would be a really hard decision for me. That would be a really, really hard. I would have to do a tremendous amount of like prayer, meditation. I would have to do a tremendous amount of mental digging to know if that was going to be.
Like if it didn't impact your nighttime gigs and you could make the schedule work
Yeah.
for a year.
It would impact everything else though.
I don't think your personality could.
Because in my mind, the first thing I would think of is, I don't know what will happen. I don't know what will happen to me in a year. And you don't know what next year holds for anybody. Right. Anything could change. But I would lose the opportunity to do all the things that I wanted to do every day. I would lose the opportunity to learn the shit that I wanted to learn, to bet on myself for the long game. I would be trading in all that time for money, as everyone always talks about, like you trade time for money. That would be really tough for me. I mean, I don't know. I can't answer. I want to say I would take it, but I don't think I really would.
Yeah.
So share your experience, your corporate experience, right? So you worked for the big international conglomerate. Like, what are the pros and cons? What did that do for you?
So right out of college, I go to work for a corporation that was privately held, Northeast. And then in 3 years, we went through 2 mergers and acquisitions.
Okay.
So each time it was a bigger company with more rules and regulations. And so at the time, it was also a learning opportunity. Until the third time around where I saw there is no team culture. You are definitely just a number. The turnover rate in the employees and the technicians was absurd. And, there was just no, we do what we do because it's what we've always done and this is how we're going to do it. And that's it. And the numbers, like, for example, part of our winter schedule was telemarketing. So we'd be like, dials for smiles, baby. Like, let's go, and that's how we would sell the lawn care service.
Yeah.
So 4 hours a night, all winter long for 4 nights a week, you'd be picking up. They had the numbers down pat to where, and I still remember it today. It was like basically 40 dials an hour would get me 10 yeses, which would result in 3 sales.
Oh my God.
I still remember that. That's freaking almost 30 years ago it was.
God, I hate cold calling.
So the first 2 were okay. The third time around, we had the whole structure got redone. And so I was working in Utica, but they had a sales satellite office in Oneida. And so we'd have to go there at night. So now I'm like, I got to do what I got to do and then drive there at night. And so they had a telemarketing team, right? So here's where the corporate thing comes into play. So they bring in a sales manager who does not know the Utica market, and he's just doing the corporate thing like they told him to do, right?
Yeah.
So he's like cracking the whip, and so it's like week one, and him and I lock horns. And I'm like, look, you're giving me shit. I'm on commission. If you're giving me shit, I'm gonna have a shitty commission check, right? So I pull out the map and I get my highlighter out. I'm like, look, see this section here? You can hear the highlighter. I'm pressing down so hard you can just hear it squeaking on the map. And I said, stay out of this area. There's nothing here. It's shit. And he's like, well, I don't think we're gonna change anything. And then like within an hour, like somebody got a lead
In there.
in the yellow zone. He's like, I thought you said, we couldn't do anything there. I'm like, whatever. So what would happen is somebody else makes the calls. They set your schedule for you, basically your appointments. And so here's your stack. Now you got to go do the quotes, and then it's your job after that to call back and try to sell the deal. Well, the lawns in the freaking neighborhood were like as big as our table. So the price is the price. I literally kept a freaking baseball bat underneath the front seat of my car. Because I'm like, it was that bad of a neighborhood. And so your day was your own. You just went and did your thing, and then, hey, you got to show back up at night. So it took me an hour to do that. I'm like, screw it. I'm going to go play golf the rest of the day. I'm going to go back to the office. I'll make my calls, and then I'm done. And once you're done with your calls, then you go home for the night.
Right.
Well, how long do you think the funnel's going to stay full when you're getting fed shit all the time? I think within like 2 weeks.
It's over.
And
Did anybody go find their own leads, or that was like wasn't part of the protocol or whatever?
It wasn't part of the program.
Yeah.
God, how stupid.
That's because it's basically now you're in an unsolicited market.
Oh.
And so back then it was a little more tolerable, than what it is today.
Right.
Yeah.
Today you either get shot, the dog's gonna take a chunk out of your ass. You tasered, pepper spray, whatever. And I'm like, so they ruined it. And I'm like, they're not gonna change. And then I thought to myself, and it didn't mean that it was a bad company or poorly run. This guy was just a meathead, and he just would not this is the way we're doing it.
Gosh.
So
having no input is like the number one way to kill your culture or your employee.
That's why leadership's so important, right there, right?
And there was none. And again, it's like, so just because this guy was of certain age, working in set company, doesn't mean he knew shit about leadership. Right. Or management or anything else. He just sat behind a desk and did what he did, and he'd sit up there while we're eating. He'd be woofing down a meatball tunnel and dumping half of it down his freaking shirt, and and I'm like, whatever.
Sounds like you like the guy.
If you just
sounds like I'm gonna start saying meatball tunnel. That's definitely I'm stealing.
Yeah.
And from there for me went the bootstrap.
Yeah. So I think I see this all the time. Leadership is the key. The leadership is the key to all of it, because you have you have a company like that where you said, well, I don't necessarily know it was a bad company or good. You probably never saw it because you only saw this one guy, right? I can say at Home Depot had relatively good leadership. Mm-hmm. They had the CEO, I think at the time, came in from some car, Ford or whatever.
Sure.
He was a big shot, and the company kind of went like this, and then they brought another CEO in, and then shook everything up. But generally, that was a big company that was fun to work for, right? So they gave back to their employees. They paid for a part of my college.
Yeah.
They had great benefits for part-time workers. You could move around departments. You could do this different kind of stuff. But at the same time, though, it's not a place for an entrepreneur unless you do it the right way because of all the systems, right? So for somebody like me, at the time I wasn't, I was in college. I wanted a job. I just wanted a paycheck. And I wanted them to pay for my college. So it served its purpose, but it doesn't serve somebody who's like, oh, if we did this, that, and the other thing,
innovation
we could do
doesn't
this.
go far.
No.
Yeah. But at the same time, there was some freedom and flexibility of if we put this up front while it's raining, these ponchos, they're going to sell better. So you could still do
You could still do
that.
little stuff like that.
So that's an example of I can't really speak bad about that in any way. That's a massive company that's done their due diligence from leadership down, setting up systems.
Sure.
And on the flip side, I worked for we'll call them a medium-sized company, law office with 15 offices. I don't know, all up and down basically the eastern side of the United States. That was run by a ex-military dude who was like systems above all. Like there are no changing the systems. If you notice something that's wrong, like well, that's for them to decide whether to change it.
Right.
So the feedback up the chain was non-existent. So here's this much smaller company than Home Depot, but they couldn't get out of their own way because systems were the way to do it.
Yeah.
And the system you just do until there is no end. You just do it until it stops, until it starts working. You just need to give it a little bit longer. You just need to, keep doing it, stick with the system. And when you have one person, it was a weird situation where there were two partners, and what they would do is they would flip-flop years because he was still in the reserves
Sounds
or
like a
active
disaster.
military or something.
Yep.
So he would go and do like a deployment 1 year, and the other partner would come in and lead. And he was he was like he was the wet puppy, like
Yeah. We have so many good terms out of this
The
episode.
wet puppy.
he was the wet puppy that the other guy would come in and he was like the general and was like, all right, we're doing so you knew which I only worked there for 6 months because you can imagine I didn't last very long, but the general dude would come in. He happened to be halfway through, is when he came in. So I started with the wet puppy, and I finished with the general.
Yeah, that's why they expired.
Yeah, and he basically came in and just undermined the shit out of
The wet puppy.
the wet
wet
puppy,
puppy.
Yeah,
And he was like,
he's a wet puppy. So what is he gonna do?
did he call him that?
I'm
I'm back, wet puppy.
Get back in your crate.
Now.
Where's that newspaper? I'm gonna swat your ass.
Yeah. So I don't. But on one hand, they were successful.
Yeah.
So in the law
Right.
field, maybe I don't know.
Were they
I'm not a lawyer.
Were they
but-
attorneys or just managers?
no,
They were
attorneys.
They were the
Yeah.
partners.
Yeah, they were the partners, and then they had a massive staff. I mean, I don't know, 15 offices. You got to figure probably
big deal.
10 people in each office, give or take, on average. And it was just rough, and the turnover there was high. We're talking attorneys coming in and leaving, in less than the time that I was there. That's not like a job you hop around very much. I don't
No,
think.
you need at least a year to get your feet wet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think what they did, and they just didn't really give a fuck, honestly, and just knew the system. What they would do is they would offer the world to the area managing partners. So Syracuse and Albany and all over, Washington D.C. They would bring somebody in who's like a really well-known attorney, and they would offer them the world.
Yeah.
Probably a boatload of money, percentage, free, whatever. Right?
Yeah.
But they couldn't change the systems. That was the thing.
Yeah.
So while we had two amazing attorneys here locally, and they were like nice people, they were great attorneys. Anytime there was like shit that everyone knew was wrong, they were silent. Didn't make a peep. So even though they're managing partners, they didn't manage anything.
Right.
And that's how.
They didn't want to be wet puppies.
Did you guys notice, because we've both worked for big companies where, Home Depot, John Deere, what was it, Evergreen or True Green?
Yep.
And then we worked for mid-sized companies or startups. But what I noticed was that my tolerance for
Stupidity.
No. For systems and processes and things that can't change, right? Like, let's say you bring up a something that could be changed. If that was rejected at John Deere, my tolerance for that was much, much higher. Because I was like, oh, it's okay. Like,
Just the way it is.
Right. Like, I felt very much like I had the freedom to speak and to offer suggestions, right? The freedom to whatever, be me. But if it was like a no, it didn't have any effect on me. I just went back to my job, peacefully, talked to my homeboys, my friends there. We just did our thing. My tolerance for being rejected or not being heard at the mid-level or startup company locally was through the, like, it was not through the roof. It was through the basement floor. I had zero tolerance for not being heard at that size of a company. Cause I thought, like, you fucking imbecile. Like, you don't know what you're doing. And I just felt like they should have had the flexibility to be able to pivot and really see us as a team. Whereas John Deere, like, unless I'm talking to John Deere himself.
Yeah.
Right?
Good old
Like,
Johnny Deere.
Johnny Deere,
Yeah, like you could be fuming, but nobody has any idea because it's such a big company.
Right, like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And, like, whatever. But the smaller companies, I thought, this is absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
Because you could pivot in 2 seconds and make everybody's life a million times better. And the only reason why you're not taking this advice is because you're an asshole. Or because you're you. And then I, like, really got angry in those situations. I could think of one instance where I got hired for this job as advertising director. It was all young people in the office, and it was led by, the owner was absentee owner. He just owned the company and was like, yeah, make this happen. But I think it was probably just like a side thing for him, like invest some money in it. And 2 women ran the company. And again, has nothing to do with women. It has to do with, like, just their personality, style, whatever. I walked in, I think I worked there a month, and I was like, no one talks here. Like, nobody spoke to each other. Like, you went in your office, they were nice offices, right? Corner office, fancy. The graphic design team, it was a marketing media company type thing. Nobody spoke. It was, you did the nod, you did the official
Cue
nod in the
number
morning.
one, that this is not right.
Well,
Right.
and I was like, yeah, but I was like, this was like my big corner office job that I really enjoyed. And they had the title, it had everything that, like, my mom was always like, you should have this because, we paid for you to go to school, so you should do this.
Right.
So, but I thought, nobody talks. This is nuts. Something is tragically wrong here. And so I started going around to the offices and started chit-chatting.
Way to go, Al.
They ripped me a new one.
Freaking derailed the company culture.
Oh my God. They were like, I shouldn't say they ripped me a new one. That's an exaggeration. But they were like, well,
They were displeased.
Al, you talk too much.
I think it's disrupting. It's disrupting.
Al, you talk too much.
Your mouth just never ends. And it's really not, we didn't hire you to talk. We hired you to get ad sales.
Yeah.
So anyway, but everyone loved it. We all loved it because we started going to lunch together. We started talking about stuff together.
They loved that you talked?
The employees loved that I talked to. I created a culture of, like, we're all going to be pals here. If we got to see each other 8 hours a day, we might as well talk.
Sure. Yeah.
The bosses were like,
Did not like it.
the productivity, and let's make sure that people are doing their job. And I quit very shortly after.
Oh, well.
What?
I was going to say it was so short, but if you were getting amazing results, do you think they would have not cared?
No, I think they would have cared.
Because you could have got better results.
I could have got better results if I did a little bit better of a job. But that was twofold. I didn't believe in I was selling advertising in a magazine. I didn't believe in the product.
Yeah.
And
It's tough to
it's tough to sell. It's tough to sell something you don't really believe the value in. Mm-hmm. The numbers were grossly inflated. It was like, our circulation's 400,000 copies, and it was like 25,000. And so I would talk to these major
every magazine ever,
right? And I would talk to these major brands and try to sell full page ads for $6,000 or something like that. And I was like,
no,
this is a joke. I go, you know what? Here's what I'm gonna do for you, $1,500. And I would, like, slice the price because it was. And I told my bosses, I was like, it's either gonna be $0 and we're gonna put our own ad for our own bullshit in just to fill the space, or $1,500. You pick. Like, do you want 0 or do you want anything I can get out of these people?
They didn't like that either, did they?
No, they didn't like that one bit. Well, my pages were full.
Yeah,
I mean, I had a full.
But you should have sold the other, 4,000.
But then again, was I entirely right on that? Probably not. I didn't care about the success of that company, so I wasn't seeing, like, no, you got to get the $5,000 ad. Like, just like in our company right now, I wouldn't sell us short. I wouldn't be like, yeah, give me $3, we'll put you on the podcast. I would say, no, our podcast is worth X
Yeah.
amount of dollars.
So
And
you
like,
didn't see the value.
I didn't see the value, and I wasn't 100% right. So I'll take the, I'll take the hit there. But
Sure.
it was just, there was much more wrong at the mid level than there was at the big high level.
So that's super interesting because that's where a lot of people. My wife went through this. Lindsay went through this.
Oh, yeah.
When she worked for, I mean, it wasn't a massive company. It was a big company.
Yeah.
Relatively well funded, as far as I know, and she was a director with no director responsibilities. Right. So it was purely a label, and she got promoted. Went from a supervisor to a
Oh, yeah.
director.
That's how they make you feel good.
And they just give you more responsibility.
Give you a
Like
new
she
title.
did get her raises and things like that. So, but that's an example of a bigger company that has things that they do that are just things that they do, and it doesn't really promote advancement. It doesn't
Right.
promote progress within the company,
Checking the box.
It's just getting
and
shit
it comes
done.
from the leadership. Like it always comes from.
or the lack thereof.
Or the lack thereof. Like
Yeah.
it's sort of like when you said that about the company you were just talking about, the phrase leader get out of the way just popped into my head.
Yeah.
About the guy who owned it, who was absentee or not there, and like who knows why. I don't know, like
Just didn't need to
whatever
be.
it might
It
be,
was-
but like
Well, that's called positional leadership. So people only follow you because of your title,
right.
right? They don't respect you. They don't believe a damn thing you're saying, but it's the boss
Yeah.
said, we got to do blah blah blah, and that's
Yeah.
Oh, it's the worst
sucks.
feeling in the world when
But
you
there's
don't respect
so
your higher ups.
Many small little things you can do
Oh.
to
Just changing
Yeah.
verbiage.
Like, I emailed my copywriter 2 nights ago, because she seemed like super stressed out. And I literally I don't even remember what I put in the email, but I was like, hey, how you doing? You okay? I want to talk about your position. Are you happy?
Yeah.
Like, she wrote me this long email of like,
Word vomit.
oh my God. First of all, thank you so much for asking that question. Just asking that question.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, who knows what job she had previously.
Right.
Where she started to like be off for a minute and they're like, you're fired. Or
Yeah.
like, what's wrong? Like, your shit's going down the tube. Like, you better get your shit together, without just asking the question, hey, are you okay? Like, just by doing
the
that, if I
power.
did nothing else after that, I probably just won her over 10 times.
Well, it's like that's why I reached out to the team this morning, and I'm like,
I saw that.
hey,
Yeah,
they
good
need
call.
because we don't work with them face to face.
Yeah. You're just getting hammered by
They
me all the
need to
time.
know that they've got
Appreciated.
some freaking guy who's cracking a whip.
Whoop-ha! What's that from?
We appreciate them, and that hey,
Doesn't make that noise. Yeah, whoop-ha!
here's the feedback,
It's friends.
right? Like, hey, people genuinely love how you make three
Yeah.
idiots look good.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
You know,
And I think across the board, when humans feel appreciated, it almost doesn't matter if the job is flawed, if like there's shit that they don't like. If they feel like they actually are valued,
right?
their tolerance for not having things go their way, it goes way up. Like they don't really give a shit if like, I don't like the way my boss does it, but he treats me like gold. So
Yeah.
who cares?
Yep. So, Al, have you had any companies that you worked for that were bootstrapping? Like,
Yeah, I mean, they were my own bootstrap, but I worked for a bunch of small companies that were. It wasn't even. I mean, at that point, it wasn't even like I was doing it because I liked. They were people I knew, and like sometimes I didn't even get paid. It was just like I would literally say like, "All right, what needs to get done? Like, what do we got to do?" And it didn't like. So I don't know if you would call that working for them or favors or what, but I never worked for a company that was a bootstrap company where I was an employee.
So I have an interesting story. So out of college, I did an internship at a relatively small business in Boston, and pretty well run.
you were working in Boston, or
Yeah.
they were just from there?
Yeah, I was in Boston,
Okay.
and it was a strength and conditioning place called Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning. Big name guy in the strength and conditioning industry, well respected. Wrote a bunch of articles. He was a better term than an absentee owner. He was a celebrity who was like out
Hands
doing
off.
his things. He was training the women's U.S. hockey team and the one of the MLS teams. Like he was
Yeah.
just training these like higher profile
Sure.
celebrities and athletes and things like that.
Yeah.
And he had his name on it. He was the one that started it, but the company was relatively well run. Systems were good. The team, we all worked. I mean, so we were interns. I mean, we worked 12 to 14 hours a day, every 4 days a week, right? And then we had Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. And small company, well run, good leadership that didn't even come from Mike Boyle because he was out.
Right.
As far as I know now, he came back in and he like wanted to get back in and do more of the training the younger generation. But well-run company, great experience. Contrast to the law firm, which was a bigger business but still a small business in the scheme of things. And you could blatantly tell the leadership. You could blatantly. I keep going back to this. I mean, you know this. You're in the leadership space, so like. It is the single most important thing, whether it's a large company or whether it's a small company, is leadership. Shit flows downhill no matter how big the hill is, right?
Avalanche.
Leadership.
Leadership flows downhill no matter how big the hill.
Yeah. Man, today's episode.
Oh, we got a lot of good
Damn,
buzzwords.
quote cards.
Yeah, so many quote
So
cards.
many quote cards.
They're not going to make sense to anybody except
No.
for us. But
Leadership.
But yeah, the lesson is you have to companies need to figure out how to find or place a good leader, which big companies, that's what they do. I mean, they try, they strike out sometimes. Somebody's got too big of an ego that they didn't see. You see this all the time in big public companies, and people are ousted, and embezzlement, like just all sorts of crazy stuff like that. And there's this weird balance though between like, a leader, and you see this with celebrities, you see this with athletes, you see this with CEOs, you see this with anybody in that kind of power position. There's like a delicate balance between like confidence and ego and humility and leadership and empathy and compassion, right? And if you get those too far off, you get too, I like it. If you get too far off on the empathy side of things and not enough on the like confidence and like structure and like this is the right way to do it, well then the blocks fall. The foundation crumbles.
It's a delicate balance.
You go too far the other way and you get poor culture. You get, people that hate their job. Systems aren't working. Well, fuck, you're not in the right position to change it. So, so in my opinion, in my experience, like that doesn't matter between, I mean, it does matter, but that's, it could be independent from the size of the company. You could be a tiny little company that has 2 employees and they fucking love you. Or you could be a tiny little company that has 2 employees and they fucking hate you. And that's going to severely impact your business.
Yeah. And I'd like to hear stories from other people, like comment, message us at Noble Crew, Noble Business, all the social media. Like tell us your experiences, or if you're the owners of the companies, tell us what things have come up that, speak to the things we've talked about today, because, they're interesting stories about the human psychology and mixed with running a business.
Absolutely. Fellas, any final thoughts?
Nay.
Good.
I feel like we were just voting on the board.
Yeah.
Nay.
Leadership. Nay.
All right, well, as always, we're super appreciative to everyone for tuning in. We got some this time. Remember, we are here every Tuesday and Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Until the next show. Cheers to life and business. May we all prosper in both.
Yeas.